Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa. On today's episode, we're just playing catch up. So stick around so you can find out what's been going on our homestead. Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead. Come along with us on our journey from a small suburban homestead lifestyle to our new lifestyle, homesteading in the rural countryside of southern Arizona. We'll share with you our tips, tricks, successes, and failures from both our past suburban lifestyle to our new rural lifestyle, all on the 2 Acre Homestead. Welcome back to the show. So glad to have you here. So you guys are dealing with just me today. We've had so much going on our homestead, and I've really got to get you guys caught up on what's going on. And frankly, I haven't even had time to post anything to Instagram. That's how busy it has been around here. So first up, I want to say that my co-host, my husband, Kevin, is not with us today, and that's because he's got a lot of things going on his end. Plus, we've been dealing with sickness here on the homestead. So we have 2 toddlers right now, our 2 little boys, and they seem to be swapping colds back and forth. If you're a parent, you know what that is. And 1 week, one is sick, and then the next week, the other one is sick. And then the other one got it again. It's just been a back and forth. So we've been, of course, treating this holistically because that's what we do around here. We've been treating everything holistically. However, we actually are thinking that we may have to dip into a doctor's office just to make sure. But pretty much we've been dealing with ear infections and sore throats. Most of that has to do with just the time of year that it is. I don't know about you and your family, but I know for us, August is the time of year, for some weird reason, we all get sick. And I know I've been ill as well. My husband seems to be the only one who has escaped it this year. So, and really we know that for us here in the desert Southwest, the month of August is the hardest time of the year for us with allergies. And a lot of times our allergies cause us to have ear infections, sore throats, and for me, sinus infections. So it has just been quite the month. Let's see, what else has been going on here on our homestead? Well, I am proud to say that we are goat owners. We finally got our goats. So right now we have 2 goats, and their names are Luna and Buttercup. And they are Nigerian dwarfs. Well, actually, Buttercup is a Nigerian dwarf mix. And I can't think of the breed that she's mixed with. It's not La Mancha. I can't think of her mixture, but she is in milk. So I'm really happy to say that it's nice having a dairy animal on our homestead. It has been a real blessing for our family. Some people will say, oh, that's a lot of work, because I do milk her twice a day. She's a little bit of a larger She's not as small as the other Nigerian dwarf, but she's not as big as a La Mancha or Boer goat, anything like that. So I do milk her twice a day, and she is providing, oh man, she is providing us with about almost a quart a day. So yeah, we are just having the time of our life with having a dairy goat. Now, the other goat that we have, Luna, she's a purebred Nigerian dwarf, and she's pregnant. So we're super excited about that. So she should be kidding in, let's see, I think in November is when she should be kidding. Late November, early December, somewhere's in there is when she's due. So that's super exciting. Then we also are going to be picking up 2 more Nigerian dwarfs, one in milk. And so that will add to the milk production here in our homestead. Now we have already been able to make cheese, obviously drinking the milk, and all of the good stuff that goes with it. Super excited to have goats on our homestead. And I have to say that it's not as hard as I imagined having goats on the homestead. Pretty much as long as they have their hay, their minerals, they seem to be doing really well. So hopefully everything stays the same, stays status quo, as far as our animals here on our homestead. Now, the animal that has been just really giving us a run for our money, quite literally, has been our turkeys. So we have 2 turkeys. They are beautiful bourbon turkeys, and they're beautiful to look at. But if you know anything about turkeys, I really hate to say this, and for all of you who are animal lovers, I'm happy for you. But turkeys are just, they're not the smartest animal on the homestead. And I'm thankful that we have clipped their wings, but they just can't seem to get it together. They go back and forth in the same spot. They've got a humongous yard in which to roam. We actually put our turkeys with our goats, and we did that intentionally. We know that those 2 species can coexist, and we know that the turkeys can kind of scratch up where the goats have maybe, done their business. And so we're really excited to have them together, but we can't seem to get them in the barn. They don't understand the concept of roosting in the barn. We have a roost for them, but they don't want to do that. They just want to sit outside at night. The problem with that plan is we have coyotes, we have raccoons, and we have a lot of critters at night. We have skunks, we have owls, and that's at night. And then the daytime critters are just as bad. There's even been mountain lion sightings around here as well. So, not smart for them to stay outside, but they refuse to go inside. So we've thought about throwing them back in with the chickens, but our flock of chickens, it's my running joke that I call our chickens, as much as I love them, I call them the thugs of the homestead, because they're a gang, and they've got gang mentality, and they totally beat up those turkeys. I mean, it was brutal. So I was really glad to put the turkeys in with the goats because it got really ugly. And the funny thing is that the turkeys grew up with the chickens when they were all young. They were all chicks at the same time. And for some reason, the chickens decided that the turkeys were out, and that was the end of that story. So they are a they're a group. Well, let me go back to the turkeys. Sorry about that. So we're actually thinking of either harvesting our turkeys. We're trying to wait for another month. So as of the recording of this is in August, late August. So we're thinking of maybe culling them late September. We are just not sure that they're going to make it, especially since they insist on staying outside. So, we're not sure that they're going to make it. So we're deciding if we want to just go ahead and cull them and put them in freezer camp, or if we want to sell them to another family.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to build a homestead from the ground up? Or maybe you're looking to build an off-grid dream home, a vacation home, or maybe just a piece of land to call your own. Visit yourcheapland.com to buy rural land in the wide open spaces of southwestern United States. When you visit yourcheapland.com, they're here to help you, and with their help, you can do this. You can take your dream of owning land and make it a reality. Most down payments are only $294, including the document fee. Remember, everyone qualifies for financing at yourcheapland.com. Head on over to yourcheapland.com and start making those dreams come true. And now, back to our podcast. It's, we really just don't know what we want to do there. So, but we know, both me and my husband, we're kind of thinking that we may not want to raise turkeys. They just don't resonate with us for some reason. And even though I joke around that our chickens are the thugs of the homestead, and they're funny. But we love our chickens. We actually really like them. And they resonate with us as an animal, and they're very practical for our family. So the chickens are in, the turkeys are probably going to be out, but we just don't know in what way they're going to be out. So on with the chickens. The chickens are actually, they are so funny. So we have one chicken. We call her Rochelle. And I apologize to anybody whose name is Rochelle, but we call her Rochelle. And she has already successfully hatched and raised 2 chicks this year. That was in early spring. Those chicks are doing fine. Actually, this weekend we need to band those chicks so that way we know as they grow, because they look like our other chickens, so we know who they are, that they're not a part of the laying hens. We need to cull them before they start laying. And we also need to butcher one of our roosters. But I digress. Anyway, Rochelle has gone broody again. And so we have set her up to where we only want her to hatch out 3 eggs this time. So we're ensuring that it's only 3 eggs. We learned a lot over the spring. So in the spring, we had 2 hens that went broody. And that really cut our egg production more, where most people were having a spring rush of eggs, we were really having a hard time because we had 2 hens that were broody. And if you know anything about chickens, when they go broody, they really can mess up the other chickens from laying. Because what was happening is they would steal the eggs. So it's really important that when you have a broody hen, remove the hen. As soon as you find out that she's broody, remove the hen from the clutch of eggs that she has, and with a pencil, mark those eggs. You're going to need to check her once a day and make sure that somebody else isn't occupying her space when she's gone, when she's going to go eat or what have you, and laying an egg or 2 in there. Because that's what was happening in the springtime. And so every time we would turn around, there was this, the clutch of eggs was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And initially we thought, oh, that's great, more little chicks. But then we quickly realized that they were all going to hatch at different times. And here's the problem. Whoever hatches, and whoever doesn't. So if you've got a hen sitting there with a lot of eggs, and let's say just for the sake of numbers, she's sitting on 10 eggs. Well, 4 of those eggs hatch. That means 6 eggs are going to sit there and do nothing. They're going to die, basically, unless you have an incubator and let them hatch out that way. Now, I know most people are going to say, well, you should have an incubator and you should just, hatch out your eggs that way. Yes, we probably should, and we probably will. But for right now, we have a hen that is excellent. She's an excellent mother. And let me give you some background information on Rochelle. So let's take a deep dive into this chicken named Rochelle. Rochelle was raised by another speckled Sussex hen that we had. Her name was Eloise. And Eloise hatched out Rochelle. The story is that when Eloise went broody, I posted a memo in Facebook, one of my Facebook groups, to see if I could get some fertilized eggs. Yay, I got them. I quickly put them under Eloise, and 27 days later, she hatched them out. Rochelle was one of them. Rocky was actually, Rocky was actually her brother as well. So Eloise hatched out Rocky and Rochelle. So Rochelle was raised by a hen. That's the point of this. She was raised by another mother hen. That's what makes her such a good mom. Because you see, what happens is when you're trying to have your laying hens and you want to grow your chicken flock and you want to be able to butcher your own chickens without having to order more chickens from the hatchery, you need a good chicken, a good hen who's going to be a good mom. And when you raise your hens in an incubator, they lose out on that heritage. They lose out on that skill set. So they're not they may be good layers, but they're not good moms. So our plan is we're letting Rochelle go broody as much as she wants to, because the plan is we want her to hatch out the next generation of laying hens. That next generation of laying hens, when they go broody, it's those chicks that we're wanting to butcher. Because now what will happen is we're going to have several hens who have been raised by another hen who will be able to continue to raise chickens, raise other chickens for us without us even having to use an incubator. That's the plan. That's our plan and we're basing our plan on how my grandfather raised his chickens, how he ran his farm. You see, my grandfather is the one who got us, or who got me onto wanting to farm and wanting to homestead. He instilled that in me when I was just a little girl. And the more research and the more stories I heard about how my grandfather did things, the more I've been able to piece things together. And what we've been doing is we've been kind of deconstructing and retrofitting how we were raising our chickens, how we were homesteading, and we're kind of doing a hard left-hand turn, so to speak, to going back to the original, to the old way of doing things. I love this idea, especially with chickens, because instead of having a freezer full of chickens all the time, like right now, I have one of my freezers it has enough chicken in there for the year. There's plenty of chicken in that freezer because we butchered about 48, 50 chickens this year. So we have plenty of chicken for the year. But rather than having an entire freezer full of chicken, what we're doing is we're diversifying and we're kind of hedging our bets, so to speak. I hate to use that term because I'm not a gambler. I don't believe in that. It doesn't go with scripture. But we're kind of sort of, giving ourselves options. So we have our meat stored with 2 legs on the ground. We have meat stored in the freezer. I have meat stored in our canners, in cans on our shelves. So there's meat stored in different ways, but the best way to store your meat is 2 feet on the ground. That's the best way to store it. And by having these good hens who are able to raise chicks on their own without any input from you, it really takes you out of the equation. All I have to do is just go on butchering day. We go ahead and we butcher those particular hens and we can go ahead and store them. Does that mean that we have more butchering days? Absolutely. But we don't have as much work. Because I don't know if you guys have heard, some people like I just said, we butchered almost 50 hens in one day. We did that. 50 chickens rather in one day. It was a lot of work. We had help, but it was a lot of work. And I just, as I was doing that on that day, I thought to myself, I really don't want to do this all day. It's a lot of work. Yes, I have food now for an entire year, but it's a lot of work. I would rather break it up because we already have everything set up in our yard. So we can butcher at any given time now on our homestead. Because everything is set up. So whenever we need to butcher or cull our chickens, we can. And it's not as much work. It's not as draining. We don't have to take days off. We don't have to take as much time away from the kids or what have you to get things done. So, we don't have to, our kids are still extremely young, so we don't have to, ship them off to Nana and Tata's, to stay for the day just so that we can butcher our chickens, yeah, so we don't have to do any of that. We can just do what we have to do and then be done with it. So I'm really looking forward to that sort of closed loop system, that closed system being implemented here on our homestead. I really, really am, because it really takes the input of, like we don't have to go to, a hatchery. Then we're also raising and growing a lot of our own chicken food. I did forget to mention that. We are growing a lot of our own chicken food. We've intentionally planted a section on our property just with the idea of coming through, cutting down some of that barley, some of the grass, some of the oats. We're cutting that down. Field peas, we're cutting some of that down periodically, and then we're able to feed that to our chickens. My husband also has a fodder system where he is sprouting seed. So there's really, we're moving toward this progressive system with our chickens where there is no outside input in our system. And it's a beautiful thing. We're really heading towards, the way my grandfather had his farm. And I'm super excited about that. So what else is going on here on our homestead? Let's see. This weekend, we've got some rabbits that we do need to cull or dispatch. So we will be doing that. Weather permitting, that's a whole different subject. Weather permitting and health permitting, because we've all been passing this summer cold around to each other. So the rabbits, happy to say I'm getting to a point where I have found some traits in some of these kits that we've had that I really like, and I'm going to start breeding these rabbits for those specific traits that I like. So really happy about that. But with the rabbits, I think the best thing to do when you have dispatched them is to let the meat sit overnight. Of course, you want to do that. And once you've done that, then throw it in the canner. Rabbits have a lot of bones. There's a lot of bones. And rather than, trying to mess around with it, I just find canning it is probably, in my opinion, it's the best thing to do. It's the easiest way to deal with them. And you can cut the carcass in half and then put it in the cans accordingly. Now for the gardens. So you just heard me say weather permitting. Yeah, weather permitting, we'll be able to do some things. So there are some in the country, in the United States, and I know this is global, some people are experiencing drought. Some people are experiencing really hot weather. And then there are some who are experiencing the diametric opposite. Colder weather, relatively speaking, and lots of rain. Well, where we live here in the desert Southwest, we are experiencing the latter. The temperatures actually are very pleasant. We've been in the 80s. Sometimes we dip into the 90s. So weather-wise, we've been really pleasant. I should say temperature-wise, it's been wonderful. But most of you know the state of Arizona, which is the state that I'm in, is experiencing a severe drought. In fact, there was a meteorologist up in Phoenix. Now, we're 4 hours away from the city of Phoenix, where we live. But in Phoenix, they are saying that if it were to rain every single day, all day, for 1 year, it still would not correct the drought. I'm not a land management person or anything like that, and I know that the state of Arizona relies on the Colorado River and Lake Mead for its water. And the Lake Mead has been just extremely low, dangerously low. So dangerous that the government is threatening to take over management of Lake Mead if, this doesn't correct itself. And I know the Colorado River has been running really low. But where we are here in Arizona, in our neck of the woods, we have been experiencing so much rain. Every day it rains here. We have been getting rain just about every day. Now, to most of you, that probably sounds, oh, that's great. You're in a drought. You need the rain. Yes, we do. But here's the hitch in the get along. Here's the problem. We have been getting rain in our area every single day. And when I say every single day it's been raining, I mean like a half an inch, a quarter of an inch of rain, anywhere between a quarter of an inch to a half an inch, sometimes even an inch of rain. We have been getting just a ton of rain. It's so bad right now that the ground is so saturated that just a little sprinkle of water, it pools. So, next to the goat yard, which is kind of out in our acreage, next to that, my husband had a cover for his pickup truck. Now, he's determined that he's never going to use that thing, and it's extremely heavy. He had it sitting out there, waiting to see how he was going to get rid of it or if he was going to sell it. It rained so much a couple of days ago to the point that that cover that my husband had for his truck got moved 100 feet. Yeah. The day before all of that happened, I had just planted all of my fall seed. So the next morning, I didn't know that it had flooded, by the way, because just because how our house is designed, our house sits very elevated. It's really high, and then it slopes down to where the animals are and to where our gardens are. All of that, it slopes down. So we had no idea that it flooded. I mean, I heard our neighbors, the neighbors across the street from us have cows, and I heard their cows making some really strange noises, but I just thought, well, maybe they're doing something with their cows. I don't know, just mind my own business. But apparently it was because it was flooding. Poor cows. But, and our animals were all fine, thankfully. I mean, everybody, the chickens roost up high and the rabbits are in their cages up high, and the barn, is elevated. So there was no damage inside the barn. The turkeys, apparently they survived. I don't know what to say there, but they apparently survived. So, anyway, I had just the day before all of this happened, I had just planted all of my fall seed. So when I woke up the next morning, I had some society garlic that I was going to plant. And I got close to the garden and, started planting my society garlic, and didn't really look that hard at the garden. And again, it's because there's a slope. So it didn't really catch my eye. But what I noticed is that, the entrance to the garden, there was a sheen on it. And that's usually just dirt. But I just chalked it up to, it rained last night, so it's still pretty wet. Pretty wet and muddy. And, we haven't gotten to putting any mulch down on that section of the garden yet. So planted my society garlic, and then I just happened to look at that specific row, one of the specific rows where I had planted a bunch of my fall beans. That also had a shine. Now, that's not supposed to have a shine. And I looked and looked. It was underwater. The sheen that I was seeing was water, not mud. It was water. And so that I have a 3,200 square foot garden, you guys. It flooded. I just about sat there and cried. So the seeds are probably washed away. Everything survived. My biggest concern right now is my potatoes, because potatoes do not like a lot of wet. They will rot. And my potatoes, I thought earlier this year, I was going to lose that harvest or that crop because they were really struggling. But then when the monsoons happened, and the monsoons are summer rains, and when that started happening, they really they came back alive and well. And so much so that all of my potatoes have flowers. All of them are flowering. So I know for sure there's tubers under there. There's potatoes under there. But now my concern is, do I pull them out? Is it too early to pull them out? Probably not, but they've not died back. They are actually, prior to the flood, they have been just really producing. So, yeah. So far, we haven't had rain for 2 days now. As of the recording of this, we have not had rain for 2 days, but we have had rain every single day for almost a month and a half, almost 2 months. It's just every day it rains. And the humidity is like in the 70s, 70%. So definitely not what we are accustomed to here in the desert Southwest. So all of that to say, I've kind of am wrapping up the gardening season this year. I'm wrapping it up early. I have decided that I am laser focused on just putting up what I can, going to farmers markets, pretty much buying them out, buying as much produce as I can at the farmer's market, and canning and preserving what I can through those means. Not what I wanted to do this year, but it is what it is. Despite all of this, the garden does still have stuff going on. I still have a ton of peppers. My raised beds are doing really well. So, and when I say raised beds, I mean like I have metal raised beds and wooden raised beds. Those beds are doing fabulous. My perennial beds are doing fabulous. I have a strawberry bed. I have, that one is doing great. I have an echinacea bed. That one is doing really good, except the blueberries died. Yeah, so we'll just let those go. My blackberry bed, that one is doing, the blackberries are just, they're going gangbusters right now. I'm expecting that next year we're going to have a wonderful blackberry harvest. I cannot wait for next year's harvest. Our grapes, we have a bed of grapes, and these are grapes for just eating. Those particular grapes are going gangbusters as well. So my perennial beds are doing great. My raised beds, the ones that have things planted in them, they are doing good. And I say it that way because not all of my raised beds have things in them. I've let some of them go. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I will see you next year. But yeah, so for the most half, my raised beds that have things in them are doing great, but it's the in-ground that's just, I mean, yeah, so the potatoes, I have a row of tomatillos. I still have a row of basil and tomatoes, and I have a row of sunflowers, and I have a row of failed corn. And the corn has failed because it's rained so much. We've been getting so much rain. It's not, anytime there's any chance of fertilization, because corn fertilizes in the air. So anytime there's any sort of possibility of that, we're getting rain. So terrible corn season here. Terrible corn season. And I take comfort and solace in knowing that I am not the only one who has been having a hard time with their corn. But I tell you what, this flood, it really hit the part of my garden that's in ground. It's hit those crops really hard. You can just see that they are struggling. They're drowning. And there's not much I can do about it, even though the soil there has been amended. And I've added compost to try to break up, because I have very clay soil. And I've, added my amendments to kind of break it all up. I did that earlier in the year. Even doing that, despite all of that, I'm still watching my plants just drown. So bittersweet when it comes to the gardens. This year, like I said, I just, it's a year of learning for me on this new homestead. I am focusing more on my perennial beds right now and my raised beds. And I have plans next year, for next year's gardening season. It's going to mostly be raised garden beds. So that will be in the future. And for more information on that and to follow me along on that journey, go ahead and look us up on YouTube. We don't have a lot of videos out on YouTube right now, but we are going to start beefing up our YouTube videos, and you'll want to follow us along for that particular process. Because if you're interested in learning how to garden, interested in just watching us garden, I should say, and are looking for some sort of inspiration, this is the time to subscribe, because as we get into the cooler months, that's when I'm really going to be going gangbusters on garden infrastructure for this year. So go ahead and look us up on YouTube. We'll put the link in the show notes. And also be sure to follow us on Instagram. Even though we've been kind of silent on Instagram a little bit, we're a little bit more active on Instagram normally, but with everybody being sick, it's just been, and everything else going on, it's been a little busy for sure. Also follow us. Also head on over to our website, the2acrehomestead.com. Our Instagram handle is the same, the 2 Acre Homestead. But on our website, the2acrehomestead.com, go ahead and keep watching for more blogs, because I am going back to what I used to do a long time ago, and that is blogging. I find it therapeutic, and I look forward to getting to share different perspectives, different things that are going on, different feelings and emotions on things. If you kind of want to know us a little bit more deeper, follow us on our website, the2acrehomestead.com. That's it from all of us here on our homestead. So from all of us to all of you who are out there, all of you who are listening, thank you for your support. And until next time, be safe out there and happy homesteading.